Rachel Park, and I'm part of Tis This Season party, and we have a very simple and streamlined platform that I'll just quickly go over, and it's represented by C's, S being stress relief. So I see a lot of like common points made by a lot of people, a lot of the parties here, and I feel like one of the unique parts of our platform is that we have the simple yet very effective way of relieving stress, such as bubble wrap and silly putty, that we can implement right away if we are elected. So stuff like that, that's very cheap to do and very efficient to do. We can implement it right away, and I feel like it's the simple things that we do to help with stress relief that really makes a difference. The second part was events, like my representative class rep, Sam, did touch up on was Pi Day. So I come from a school of 2,000 people, and one of the main events that the Math Honor Society did was Pi Day. And before, when I was a freshman, it wasn't really a big thing, but as we made it a big thing, and we brought in pies, so many pies, literally 2,000 people from the whole school came together and ate food, and it was just like a great way of uniting people. And it's very simple, very cheap to do, but a really fun event to do, and I feel like that's one event that we can make really big here at Columbia. Another thing is accessibility. One thing I realized was people can drink out of tap water, but another accessible way of accessing water is water coolers on every floor, and it's actually not that expensive. It's about $50 per water cooler, and we plan to implement that for easy access. And lastly, study groups. We can see that like there's so many classes that are really, really big, and we have recitations to get help from TA, smaller recitations, but also it's really helpful to have a way to reach out to people, such as study groups that a lot of people mention. And one reason that's really effective, study groups would be effective, is because after like the first 2 weeks after NSOB, it's really awkward to say hi to people, and it's really awkward to say introduce yourselves to people. You might be sitting next to them but never say hi or know their names. So these study groups will help pair people up, pair groups up, not required, but that would be a great way to meet people and also provide a close-knit.
Awesome, great, thank you. So the question I have for you guys is, how will you increase student participation in student council events? That has always been an issue with like, there hasn't been enough advertised, there just isn't enough participation, but then how would you guys, what measures do you think would be best to increase that participation in the coming year? So we'll go down the line as well.
Awesome. Something that Pantone 294 loves is surveys and just interacting with people. So actually earlier today we had an event where we met on the lawn and we met some of the C's freshmen, and that's what we want to do more with student council, interacting with people. The more we interact, the more they'll be aware of our events. Another thing we wanted to do is have the Coffee with Council event, which is monthly, so Coffee with Council, where we also have them coming in, meeting with us, knowing about us a bit more. If more people are liking the Facebook page, they'll see our events circulating. If we can always put posters out, they'll definitely be interacting a lot more. And yeah, we'll just keep reaching out and making sure that the presence is definitely alive at Columbia.
All right, so especially even within the first 3 weeks of being here, I noticed there are a lot of like schedule conflicts. So a lot of times you'll have an event going on, but then you have class, and after class you have homework, and then after that you have the club meeting. So definitely reaching out to the student body and checking out what their schedules look like, and also being aware of larger classes and what periods of time classes tend to be in, and definitely arranging events in ways that they fit in with the maximum number of people's schedules. And another thing is catering those events to the population. So maybe the people on student council might think it's a really great idea, but then you go out and not everybody is feeling the same thing. So definitely increasing awareness of what exactly the student body is willing to participate in, and not just throwing things out there because we would think it's cool. And yeah.
So of course, I think the class council is responsible for reflecting the interests of the student body, and therefore increasing communication between the student body and the class councils is incredibly important. And so that's kind of inherent in the position. However, we're also looking at the actual issues that the student body is facing and trying to create communities in which these issues can be addressed, as well as creating a community so that these students can actually interact with each other. So one of the 5 points that I didn't mention before was the study group option, where we were organizing an app, just like the NSOP scheduling app, or an extension of the NSOP scheduling app, where there would actually be planned study groups for specific majors or for specific classes. so that people can actually go to these events and study productively with a new group of people, work on problem sets together, etc. So the study group is an idea. Another thing is actually creating an app where the events and the meetings of clubs are actually shown to everyone. This is also like the end-stop scheduling. And so we would see, every single student would actually see what events are going on and actually can go to those events. And we would actually have a centralized bank of information. So people wouldn't just be looking at flyers or randomly or Facebook events, and they would actually have that app on them. So they would have the information known to them, and therefore they could actually go to the events that they know are happening. So I think those two ideas are effective.
So I think one way of putting the student council's name out there would be, as I said, with the silly putty and the bubble wrap we hand out to all the floors of all the freshman dorms, just putting our name out there and telling the student body where it comes from and like the sponsorship of it. And also, like I said, like the Pie Day and one other event, the International Food Day that we do. Food brings people together, and by doing so, I feel like we can bring a lot of people together, eat food, and also just put our name out there. And I think that's just one of the most important things to do, put our name out there.
Awesome, thank you. So that's all the time we have for the vice presidents. And then I'll thank you again for coming up. And then now invite the president of the ESC Student Council Class of 2021 to come up and debate.
What's going on?
Class president. Yeah. Currently, we're very behind schedule. I think we'll be done by 4:30 if everything goes well. Hopefully. So let's see. Is everyone up there? Is shoe time? You're on camera, by the way.
Oh. It's okay, everyone ties their shoe.
I'll just edit this and cut this part out. Don't worry.
Do the double funny thing.
All right. So, okay, so recording. All right, so we'll be starting the class president debate for class 2021 for ESC. We will, again, same deal, just name, party, and a little bit about your platform. Again, you kind of want to address things that your previous party mates have not addressed so far in order to, cover as much ground as possible. So we'll go down the line from here to there. And then just because, again, from time constraints, if I go like this, that means your minute is up. So please wrap up your thought and let the other person speak. Thank you. And you may begin.
Hi everyone, my name is Jillian Ross. I am obviously in C's, looking to study applied math and computer science, and I'm running with a wonderful team named Pantone 292. I'm a proud resident of John Jay 1248, and the reason I bring that up is that I think it is a really unique point of our platform that I'd really like to emphasize, is that we're focusing on accessibility and openness. So while we all have really great ideas, very tangible ideas that I hopefully can share with you later today, we are looking really to hear from you, because at the crux of it, student council is about representing the body. It's not about doing what the group of 4 people want to do. It's about what the entire C's class and really trying to improve the entire Columbia community. So that is through the form of surveys, the first of which we sent out yesterday. We have some really good responses and ideas that we had thought of. There's also a copy of council, which we talked about, and also improving our social media presence just across the board. So ESC website, also starting an ESC YouTube channels, because sometimes we don't want to read, or we can multitask by listening and doing some other work. And also just increasing our Facebook presence. I think that will also tie in hand with improving ESC's presence on campus, because the turnout for this debate alone is just, I think is representative to the sort of the things that we need to improve. So I think that Pantone 292 is really focusing on the transparency part of it.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sean Amirthin, and I'm running with Sail the 7 Seas. And my representatives and my vice president have pretty much covered everything that our entire platform campaign. So I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty and the details right now. So one of the things we talked about was raising spirit and community, because one of the unique things about Columbia's engineering community is that it's very tight-knit, and we're relatively small compared to a lot of other engineering schools. So one thing that we'd like to do for the class of 2021 is really just emphasize giving out free gear, because those god-awful beanies that they gave us are not going to do it. So we want to introduce more free hats, more free t-shirts, and like our representative said, definitely get more stuff in the bookstore. That would be very useful, and that would be great in bringing people together as well. Another thing we talked about was eliminating excessive costs. And one thing that we haven't really touched on yet was the fact that we're looking at increasing funding toward mental health services by decreasing the activities fee. So right now the activities fee is around $789, and you guys might have seen that really famous spec article about how we're essentially paying for rejections. A lot of people don't get into the clubs they want, but you're still paying $789 every single year for these clubs. So essentially what we're saying is that we'd like to decrease the amount that you pay for your activities fee to around like $689 and take that towards mental health services so that we can afford walk-in hours. Because as our representatives emphasized, you never know when you're going to need help. And just the whole idea of taking appointments and stuff is really strenuous. So if we could have walk-in hours here, that would be really great. And we hope to model this after something from our rival school, Cornell. This is the only time I'm ever going to say that. They have this service called Let's Talk, where you essentially just walk in as an engineer, and you get to talk to anyone who's got professional training about any qualms that you have. And that would be a great addition to the Columbia community, especially for the class of 2021, in terms of tackling mental health issues around here. And finally, what I'd just like to touch on is our intercollegiate conferences that we were talking about, because I feel like a lot of the other engineering schools have got some great ideas, and by holding these huge conferences like this, we'd be able to communicate with them and get a few ideas of what their life as an engineer is, because it's inevitably going to be very different. And by drawing upon their experiences, we could probably improve our own experiences as Columbia engineers. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Jaidev. I'm running for Cultural Union President with my party, Sees the Change. I was born in Boston, raised in the Bay Area. I did high school in India. And like me, my team is pretty diverse. We represent 3 countries, 4 states, and more importantly, all of your voices. Our platform, so my representatives and my vice president already talked about what the platform covers, so I'd like to go into how we want to solve those same problems a bit differently. As engineers, we realize that today's generation is very digitally connected, and the way we want to solve problems that Columbia has is by using technology, by leveraging technology to do the same thing. For example, one of our platform's biggest points is reimbursing meal swipes, but we already have the Flip app and a couple of online Facebook groups, but to make that more accessible, we aim to promote a new application which will, based on your location, match you up with someone who needs a meal swipe. This also solves food insecurity on campus. And you can basically get money for your expiring meal swipes if you have 6, 7, 9 meal swipes expiring every week. Moreover, we also want to expand research opportunities to everyone, especially people from lower socioeconomic status and minority groups, because we know, because recently this summer I audited a class at Stanford called Using Big Data to Solve Social Problems, and a very surprising thing, one of the case studies on Columbia, a very surprising thing is that there are 13.7% of Columbia students are in the top 1% of the income ladder. The wealth disparity in Columbia is pretty huge. It also translates into exposure disparities, which means not everyone has the same high school research experience as they had, as pretty much people with high income, people on the high income scale have. So we want to introduce a mentoring program which helps people from low minority groups and low economic status to connect with upperclassmen, connect with professors who need researchers, and make the process very, very streamlined. I'd like to end by also introducing another important part of our platform called, which is about extending financial aid to WebAssign, which is a very hidden cost and which is something we really need to work on to make Columbia, the experience of Columbia, more accessible for students internationally. We aim to be a very dynamic party, and that's why we want to make sure all of your voices are heard. If any of you has any issue that you need us to solve or any concern you need to raise, you're always free to talk to us, connect to us, and visit our platform. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexander Danashi, and I'm running with Tis the Season for President candidate. And in the end of it, what we want is for our fellow engineers to be happy. So one of the ways we plan on doing that is making sure that they've got a great mental attitude to whatever they're doing. So let's say, it's nearing midterms or finals, or it doesn't matter. I mean, and they, they're not distraught or distressed. They just want some comfort. What they can do is, because engineers are such a small group of people, we should be able to easily set up a system where they can just, call the phone number where they just ring up like an upperclassman who's also an engineer, and they're like, and if you said to them, I've got this physics 1400 class, I don't know what the hell's going on, like, what do I do? They'll probably end up saying, just hopefully they'll say, don't worry about it, just do the best you can. It won't impact you that in the long run. So once they've got this sound mental attitude, we want them to then be able to actually execute their work and be able to be as best prepared as they can for their classes. So one of the ways we plan on doing this is improving the current Canvas system, where people can have chat rooms, like video chat, and actually upload work in order to create a sense of collaboration, much more so than, because engineers, they're not the most outgoing people in the world. They should be able to just sit in their room on their own, but if they want, they should be able to have a better way of communicating with people other than those stupid discussion boards. And then our third way is, great food. So our aim is also to have, every month, we want to have host a banquet, a big table full of food from all over the world. So we'll have Japanese food, so sushi, Italian food, Chinese, just to create a sense of community and bring people together more, rather than having a standard meal at Paris or whatever. So yeah, that's what we want to happen.
My name is William Sharma. I'm the presidential candidate for the STEMinists. Ria, actually, the vice president of the STEMinists, had to go downtown, so she was not in the vice presidential debate. So I'm going to have to kind of go through my whole platform as quick as I can. A lot of the ideas are similar. There are things that we've all talked about, peer exchange and study groups, or talking to upperclassmen. But what's special about the STEMinists is that we don't focus on necessarily grandiose projects and getting every single person in C's to come to a round table and eat. And we all love good food. I have to say, Ferris isn't bad food. I don't mind. I like going there. But what we want to do is bring smaller things to the C's community that we think everyone might like. Legos. I know everyone doesn't like Legos, but we're all engineers. We all probably played with them when we were little. If you didn't, then you don't have to play with Legos. Our idea is to bring maybe a box of Legos to a lounge, and then all the engineers can go use those Legos if they want. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But if they didn't want to use those Legos, we also have Play-Doh that we would think of. Simple solutions that are stress relieving. I don't know, I kind of want to build a spaceship right now because I'm trying to do chem, but it's really frustrating. So while the STEMinists understand that there's a lot to do with peer exchange and study groups, because we want all of the STEAM students to feel connected to each other, and we will implement things like this. I don't need to go into them again because it's much of the same discourse that we've heard from every party, and that's a good thing. That means we are united already. But the smaller things is what we hope to bring to the STEAM community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as presidents, you are now the respective leaders of individual parties. I would like to ask you, what would be the one theme that would dominate your terms as presidents, right? Like, what would be the crowning achievement? Well, not like specific details, but like, what kind of theme would you like to perpetuate during your administrations? So we'll go down the line as before.
Okay, so as I mentioned, Pantone 29 Foo is based on this idea that we're representing everyone. So in that sense, our theme is kind of nebulous in that we want to hear what everyone wants us to do. You know, 4 people can't encompass 300 people. So I guess in broad sense, our theme is just having flexibility and figuring out what we want to do. But we really just want to make the engineering community close-knit as possible, while also recognizing that the greater Columbia community provides us with a very unique and holistic engineering education. So we'd like to increase school spirit. In our survey, actually the #1 thing that people wanted, you know, while they also recognize that academics are very important, but the #1 thing unanimously that people said they wanted was fun student life events. So that would be our Rory Surprises, which is when this is an idea taken from peer school, Emory. Rory would come in with what you would contact professors before, and they would come in and they would surprise the students with free merch and increase school spirit. So ideas like that.
So I think the one thing that I've noticed in the past 3/4 weeks that I've been here is that by talking to other people from other schools, is that one of the things that really damages Columbia's image internationally, in fact, is this whole concept of a stress culture. And I definitely say that our theme and what we'd like to be known for the class of 2021 is to get rid of this image by tackling with our various approaches that we've all already mentioned. As well as that, we think that by fostering closer bonds between the class of 2021 engineering community, we could probably tackle stress we could probably tackle that sort of stigma using those methods as well. So like we already said, we'd like to introduce walk-in mental health services hours, and as well as that, we'd also like to create a Tinder-esque app where people are able to meet other people. Obviously, it's not going to be as sexual as Tinder, but it's a great place to. It's obviously a great place to meet other people to study and work on problem sets with. Thank you.
For the one thing that defines our campaign is that as engineers, we don't want to make feel-good, vague promises. We want to take concrete action and walk the talk. So as I mentioned earlier, our platform is very technology focused. We want to bring out initiatives which makes resources that Columbia has accessible to everyone. For example, one very shocking statistic is that 48% of Columbia students report food insecurity in the past 30 days, and 32% of those students report that food insecurity caused an impact on their education and on their ability to grasp education. I feel this is a very important problem. Research opportunities, inequality in research opportunities, also something we really aim to solve. But moreover, the underlying theme of our campaign is not only to make the C's experience better, but also enable C students to make a difference to the world and make a broader impact rather than just focusing on our community. Thank you.
So, because our main idea is happiness, one thing that we would love to see is if people who aren't necessarily in the same friend groups end up talking to each other. So, our mission of getting the water cooler on every other floor and then having bubble wrap on every other floor that the water cooler isn't on would mean that if you want one of those things, or both, you'd have to go to a different floor. And so then, just seeing that just kind of forces people, different floors, different friend groups to talk to each other. And if we just see that, then we know we've done something good. And that's all we really want to do.
The STEMinists would like to say that they would like their platform to be based on something that is fun, something that does make people smile, and that has been shown to decrease things like stress culture or feeling down, and that's humor. We do have a meme page for the whole school, but that doesn't mean that we want to see a meme page. We just want people to be able to smile. So whether that's Play-Doh or Legos or, these peer exchanges, seeing people in C's go to class and smile, or come out of class and smile, or be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to go to class and smile. That would be our kind of achievement, happiness.
Awesome. Great, thanks so much. And that will be it for the ESC Class of 2021 President Debates. Woo! Great, so give me one moment actually to reset.